Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
You are able to hear?
Yes, ma'am. Now only I can hear you, ma'am.
Go to the first slide. First slide. Complaints.
Yes, ma'am.
Say, you have given the complaints of lump in the right breast for the past 4 months.
Yes,
Next
ma'am.
slide. Next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
In this,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I can't hear you. Hello.
not associated with pain, you have written.
Yes, ma'am.
Next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what are all coming on to this history taking in a case of breast pathology? What are all the conditions you want to rule out or while you examine a
Uh,
case of taking by taking history? What are all the common conditions which you come across in a breast?
Ma'am, with no history of trauma, we rule out any hematoma or fat necrosis.
Hmm.
With no history of fever, I ruled out mastitis, breast abscess.
Hmm.
Uh, and with no history of discharge from the nipple, I can rule out any duct ectasia or duct papilloma.
No,
Or
I'm asking what are all the diseases, common diseases which you come across in the breast? Either
common.
it could be a carcinoma or
Yes.
anything to do with a benign breast disease, isn't it?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so you have to rule out, take the history as per as per ruling out anything abnormally suggestive of a carcinoma. So you ask the history, you ask for the nipple discharge, nipple retraction, any history of back pain, and loss of appetite, loss of weight, jaundice. So when you have a carcinoma in the breast, how does it usually present? You would
Uh,
have got from the previous class
uh,
that carcinoma breast presents as so and so. So what are all the conditions, symptoms by which they present?
First, age of presentation is above 40 years, ma'am, more commonly. And then the lump grows faster. Progression is faster, ma'am, in case of carcinoma. Uh, and in case of, uh, then there will be lump. mm, there will be a recent nipple retraction if the malignancy has infiltrated the lactiferous ducts, ma'am.
I am not
There
able
will.
to hear you in between.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, now I am able to hear. So, what are all the things you said I previously?
First, ma'am, age of presentation is more than 40 years. Next,
Yeah.
uh, the tumor progresses faster.
Mm.
Next, there will be skin changes in the breast, ma'am, over the lump. There will be skin changes. There will be recent nipple retraction if the malignancy has infiltrated the lactiferous ducts.
Mm. Yes.
Um, there will be loss of appetite, loss of weight, ma'am.
Mm.
In case of metastasis, there might be back pain, jaundice, breathlessness, ma'am. Ma'am? Hello?
Very clear.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Now I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. So, loss of appetite, loss of weight is the general. So, you take the history as per the local symptoms, enumerate all those things together, and the generalized conditions, symptoms, or signs which you come across, or anything else for the localized first, then come for the generalized condition of secondaries or whatever. So you have to say, so you said rightly said that there is trauma. You are able to hear?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear
No
you, ma'am.
history of trauma. Second thing which you want to rule out will be any inflammatory or infective conditions. You said fever. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So next thing you want to rule out any symptoms which correspond to malignancy. Okay, so for that, locally symptoms, for any findings will be your nipple retraction, nipple discharge, any previous history of any lump, then about the skin changes, any satellite lesions or previously any other biopsy or FNAC which has been done, all those which constitute locally, as well as any investigation of being done. That's all part of it. Then about the local generalized, you said loss of appetite, loss of weight, it is a generalized problem that due to any carcinoma or chronic illness, isn't it?
Okay,
So
ma'am.
for that, you have to take about the loss of appetite, loss of weight. When do you get jaundice? In
Ma'am,
carcinoma, secondaries of the liver mostly, isn't it?
yes,
So,
ma'am.
and in the back pain, what is the history of back pain you're getting over there?
If the tumor malignancy has spread to vertebrae, lumbar vertebrae.
Okay, lumbar, well, not necessarily lumbar vertebrae. Any vertebra over the thoracic, lower thoracic also can be included. So back pain is anything to do with the any secondaries which has been deposited.
Ma'am, I can't. Your voice is breaking, ma'am, now. Ma'am?
Secondaries in the vertebra. So for the lungs, you said the cough with hemoptysis, isn't
Yes,
it?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Then for the cerebral part of it, any secondaries in the skull?
Uh, yes, ma'am. Headache,
Headache, giddiness,
giddiness,
or syncope, whatever.
syncope. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so you have to get something to say that it has not spread to the back or in the liver or the lungs or the bones. No bony pain, that also can be included. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so this is in addition to the cerebral part of it, the symptoms concerning with the cerebral part of it. So you're excluding something which are concerned with malignancy and which are concerned with trauma, with concerned with infection. So all these you have given now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next time. So, so concerning with your present history, you are giving now the comorbid conditions. In addition, you have to get something about the previous complaint, similar complaint in the past, in the sense whether anything has been any lump has been there. Certain lumps which may present in some stage may regress and become normal or near normal in the previous episodes. So that's why we want the previous history of similar complaint in the past. For example, fibroadenoma. So suppose there is a 2 by 2 centimeter fibroadenoma. So that lump may regress in some persons to a smaller size. So, any similar complaint in the past you have asked. Then about the comorbids. Then what else do you want to ask?
Uh, any previous diagnostic procedures like FNAC or biopsy was taken? We
That
can
is
ask.
under the treatment history. You can come there, take it over there. Now, past history of anything like tuberculosis you have given. So,
Yes, ma'am.
tuberculosis, can it present in the breast?
Yes, ma'am. Retro mammary abscess. It can.
Yes, it can present in the breast also as a granulomatous lesion. Okay, so these are the things which you are getting in this one. You have to take about history which is of similar in nature, or is there any other lump which has presented anywhere else in the body, and there is a lump in the breast also. That is another point. That is some other lump which may have some very few, but there are certain conditions where you can have a secondaries in the breast also, in addition to the primary elsewhere. Okay,
Okay,
so
ma'am.
any not only similar complaints, in addition, any
Ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Say history of any drug intake. What are all the common drugs you think of while taking this history?
Uh, OCPs, ma'am.
Mm.
Next, particular drug cyclosporin is like correlated with fibroadenoma, like in case of any renal transplant.
Mm.
Uh, next,
So having this patient as 24 years, you say this. If the patient is at a menopausal age group, what else? The HRT, that is
HRT, yes, ma'am.
hormone replacement therapy. So you have to say whether the patient is taking any drugs, including the hormone replacement or the OCPs. That is anything to do with estrogens or
Okay,
progesterone. Okay.
okay.
Okay, so treatment history is this. Now coming on to the allergy history, you said the food and the drug allergy. Next slide. So this is about the personal history. What is it concerned in the breast?
Ma'am, high fatty diet is a concern.
Yeah, you have to see whether the patient is taking any non-vegetarian diet in high quantities and including something like beef or excess of fatty items like even the egg yolk in large quantities if they take, that is also a high cholesterol content that will be there and there is chances. Okay, so in addition there is no habits of smoking and alcohol are given, normal bladder and bowel habits, sleep pattern. Next slide.
Family history.
Here, what do you want to say by similar complaints in the family members?
Ma'am, I meant the like breast malignancies
Mm.
or any ovarian malignancies or like that.
So you don't say similar complaints. You say you have to particularly say that there is no history suggestive of any malignancy in the family members or the ancestors. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Mm. Blood related family members in the sense maybe a sister, mother, sister, something like that. Because carcinomas is said to occur in family members.
Family.
Okay, so that is what. Then about family history, anything else?
Uh,
Fibroadenomas can it occur?
fibroadenoma. Yes, ma'am. If it is genetic, it can occur.
So there are a few conditions which you have to know where that this carcinoma with genetic. What are all the genetic patterns in a carcinoma? So you say that the BRCA1 and the BRCA2 are there, no? So
Yes, ma'am.
which may be transmitted to the next generation at times, and that is the history you are taken here. Thanks.
Menstrual history. Ma'am? Hello, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, here the menstrual history. Here, what you have given is patient attained menarche at the age of 15 years of age. The patient had regular cycles, 5 by 30, normal flow, and no clots. So, you want to say that the patient has had a normal menarche and there was no intake of any drugs. In addition to it, there is if the cycles are abnormal, what do you want to think of? It may be a ovarian deficiency which produces some irregular cycles. So this ovarian deficiency may be a decrease in the hormones, or the patient will go in for a hormone replacement which increases the breast diseases. Okay, so that's what you want to say by this.
Okay, ma'am.
Next.
And marital history, she is unmarried, ma'am. I didn't mention.
Okay, she is unmarried. Okay. So what is it? What is the relationship between the marriedness, having kid, and unmarried?
Uh, breastfeeding reduces the exposure to estrogen, ma'am.
Uh,
Hormone.
Okay, so if the patient has children, then as breastfed, the hormonal, the prolactin levels, everything would have been there, and there would have been more of flow through the ducts, and there is less chance of what you have what do you call as multiple cellular congregation within the ducts. So
Ma'am, again there is a break.
married, you have to ask whether the patient is married with how many children and the number of months or years she breastfed. All those you have to get it. Okay.
Yes,
Next.
ma'am. Summary, ma'am.
Mm.
Ms. Sarita Devi, 24 years old female, came with the chief complaints of lump in the right breast for past 4 months.
So other than that, nothing else.
Uh,
Only lump in the right breast.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Hello? Ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, continue.
Okay, ma'am. General examination. Patient is conscious, oriented to time, place, and person, moderately built and moderately nourished. BMI 24.6 kilogram per meter square. Uh, no pallor, no ictus, no cyanosis, no clubbing, no pedal edema, and no generalized lymphadenopathy.
Okay.
Vitals, yes, ma'am. Vitals pulse rate 82 beats per minute, blood pressure 130 by 80 millimeters of mercury in sitting posture measured in right upper limb. Respiratory rate 16 beats per minute, temperature afebrile.
Okay, temperature, right? So the vitals you are given to be almost normal. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Examination of breast. After getting consent and ensuring the privacy of the patient with the presence of female attendant, the patient was exposed up to the waist. Inspection. Patient in sitting position with arms by the side. Right breast is normal in position, size, and shape on comparison with the opposite breast. No visible lump on inspection. Skin over the breast is normal. No scars, no dilated veins, no dimpling, and no ulcerations. There is no pudgy orange appearance. Nipple single, normal in position, size, and shape. No cracks or fissures. Both the nipples are at the same level. Areola brown in color and normal in size. No cracks or fissures. Arms and thorax normal. Supraclavicular region there is no swelling seen. Patient with arms raised above the head. Both breasts rises equally. No puckering. Inframammary region seen and was normal. Axilla was normal. There was no swelling. Patient on leaning forward, breasts fall equally on both sides. Palpation, there was no warmth and no tenderness. A single lump in the upper outer quadrant of the right breast was felt. Size of 3 cross 3 centimeter, globular in shape. Surface is smooth, margins are regular and well defined. It is firm in consistency. uh, it moved independently within the breast tissue, or we can say intrinsic mobility was present. No no fixities to the skin, underlying muscles, or chest wall. No palpable axillary lymph nodes. Systemic examination. Respiratory.
Go to the previous slide.
Yes, ma'am.
So, previous one, inspection part of it.
Yes,
So, you do inspection of the patient on how many postures?
actually, arms by the side, arms raised above, arms on the hip also, ma'am. I forgot to mention. And leaning forward position. Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Arms by the side, you said. Then arms,
Arms raised above the head, ma'am.
okay. Arms raised above the head. Then
Leaning forward, ma'am.
leaning forward position. Then,
Uh, Arms on the hip, ma'am.
okay, over the waist.
Waist.
So what is the purpose of inspecting in these positions?
First, by the side of the body, we see the breast, or the skin over the breast, the
So
breast.
while sitting down position with the arms by the side, you can examine both breasts as well as the nipple areola complex and the and over the sides of it also. Whereas while you take the arms above the shoulders, that is arm raised, what all important things you have to look for?
We can see the axilla inframammary region.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, so the inframammary region, what all will you look for?
if there any hidden lump is there, ma'am, or any
Any lump,
smoothing
any swelling which is present, okay, ulcers, then any scars,
scars.
yeah,
Oh,
any
yes, ma'am.
scars over there, which may indicate a previous surgery. Okay, so you're able to visualize the inframammary region, then the axilla also fully.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so that's how you want to take the arms above the head. Then by putting the arms over the waist, what do you do?
Ma'am, if any the lump becomes prominent or not, we will see, ma'am.
Lump becomes prominent or not, okay, then
Or any
hmm.
skin changes appears like dimpling or puckering or dimpling.
So by this position, you are putting the muscles, the pectoral muscles into contraction.
Contraction.
And if you have any lump which is superficial over there, they may always the lump is superficial in the breast or to the, but while doing palpation, you can move the lump over the vertical axis as well as the horizontal or perpendicular to the
Okay.
axis of the muscle fibers. So that means the lump is not attached to the deeper fascia. Okay.
Fascia. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what you are going to see by that. By putting the, you can do inspection as well as palpation in these positions. Okay, so one is about the head, one putting it over there, then about waist, putting it over the waist, then what do you do when examined while in the leaning forward position?
Ma'am, we see if the breast nipple is attached to the chest wall or not.
Again, it is the same whether the lump is attached to the chest wall or is it falling forward equally.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is what you want to make up to know while doing the while putting the patients in all these positions. So the, as you said in the first part of it, now you do the inspection, palpation, whatever of the breast. On inspection, you said about the any lump in the skin over the breast, for look for any ulcers, scars, then nodules, purely orange, dimpling, then about dilated veins. So when do you get a dimpling?
Uh, Ma'am, if the uh, malignancy has infiltrated the Cooper's ligament, ma'am,
Mm.
at that time we will get dimpling, ma'am. There will be indentation on the skin, ma'am.
Where is the Cooper's ligament?
Uh, Ma'am, it attaches the glandular portions with the skin and the chest wall, ma'am.
And the chest wall or something else, some other word?
Pectoral fascia.
Okay, so the deep fascia, if it is involved and it is attaching the Cooper's ligament with the skin. So if this ligament is being involved, it will withdraw the skin part of it, and that is shown as a dimpling. Okay. Dilated veins, where is it important? What does
Ma'am,
it indicate?
if the lump is very large, ma'am, there will be engorged vein, as in
Mm.
Phyllodes tumor.
Cystosarcoma phyllodes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So the vascularity of the lump is more as in cystosarcoma phyllodes and in some cases of malignancy also.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Then, so you have examined the skin over the breast, you have examined the nipple areola complex, and you have put pressure over the nipple area and look for
Uh,
any discharge
Discharge, no discharge.
from the nipple. Then, what else? The lump, if it is present, is it mobile or is it having restricted?
Mobility. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now I can hear it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So next slide. Ah, yes. Yeah, previous. Yes,
Which one, ma'am?
yes. So you have talked about the nipple, the skin over the swelling, the areola, the arms and thorax. Then what do you look in the arms?
Ma'am, if any edema, brawny edema,
Mm.
then any
Mm.
cancer, necrosis, that
Mm.
appearance, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So if there is any surgery being done, there is more chances of being any radical surgeries. Then there is chances of being edema, the limb being edematous. Okay. Then
Yes,
for the supraclavicular region, you may think of a secondaries over there.
secondaries.
Okay. So all these you have examined. So not only the breast, the nipple areola complex, the axilla, the supraclavicular region, all these you have examined now. Go on with the next slide. Yes. Again, the same position with arms raised above the head. You are looking into the axilla for any swelling over the or over the inframammary region if there is any scars.
Yes, ma'am.
And over the by in this position also you can examine by palpation also whether the lump is having the same findings. Okay. The
Yes, ma'am.
leaning forward, of course, we have discussed. Next slide.
Palpation.
Okay, palpation, of course, on inspection, we have done this. On putting the muscle into contraction, you have to palpate the lump if you have a lump. Okay,
Yes,
so now you have told about the warmth and tenderness. The lump, you have given the quadrant which where it is present and the size and shape of it, and the surface you have given. The margins are well defined and regular, you have said. Okay, coming on to the consistency. What does it suggest?
ma'am. Ma'am, firm in consistency means it can be fibroadenoma,
Hmm.
or it can be a fibroadenosis also. But hello, ma'am. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Fibroadenoma is firm in consistency, ma'am.
Okay.
Then it can be fibroadenosis also.
Hmm.
Um, that's all, ma'am.
Okay. Some you have to know which all. What is the consistency? You know that malignancy is hard in consistency. We leave alone that. So you have something firm over here in this patient, and if it is soft in consistency, what all can you think of?
If it is soft fibroadenoma,
Hmm.
cystosarcoma
Okay.
phyllodes,
Cystosarcoma phylloides is not always very soft. Some cystic lesions alone can be soft, not a cystosarcoma phylloides. Okay,
Okay,
so
okay.
there will be a variable consistency in cystosarcoma phylloides, which may present as cystic in some areas, whereas it is solid in some areas, or it may be firm in consistency like that.
Hello?
Soft in nature. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next thing which you are going to do after confirming the consistency, you have to move the lump in the direction of the fibers of the pectoralis.
Pectoral major.
Okay, and in addition, which is perpendicular to that particular axis. So you have to see whether the lump
Ma'am, I can't hear you. Yes, ma'am.
you are able to hear.
Yes, ma'am. Now I can hear you.
So whether it is that the intrinsic mobility, the movement within the breast tissue as such is present. That is, so you have to look for the mobility.
Yes.
Having confirmed the mobility and the consistency, next what are you going to do? So is it attached to the skin? Is it attached to the deeper structures? Deeper structures in the sense the fascia, the chest wall.
Pectoralis major. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, muscle or the chest wall. So now you would have known what all does the chest, what does it mean by telling chest wall, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
Ribs,
Hmm.
intercostal muscles,
Mhm.
um, and the fascia covering.
So not that fascia, you mean the pectoralis fascia?
Clavipectoral fascia.
So the deeper to the pectoralis muscles, you have the ribs, then
Yes,
the intercostal muscles which are present, as well as the vessels over there in between. Okay, so that means the chest wall, and the attachment to the muscle is something different. So attachment to the fascia, attachment to the muscle, attachment to the chest wall. Can find out same way, is it attached to the skin? So all round you're assessing the lump. Now you finished this. You know the consistency, you know the mobility, whether it is attached to the surrounding structures. All these you know. Now what else you want to say? You have
Um,
gone to the axillary lymph nodes. Next slide. Okay, previous slide. So also now in addition, you have to look for the nipple complex. You have to mention whether
okay, ma'am.
there is any discharge from the nipple on palpation.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so that also has to be included in
Okay.
addition to this. Next,
Systemic examination.
okay,
Respiratory system, normal vesicular breath sounds heard, no added sounds. Abdomen, soft, non-tender, no free fluids or no organomegaly. Cardiovascular system, S1, S2 heard, no murmurs. Central nervous system, no focal neurological deficit seen.
so you have assessed all the other systems: CVS, RS, abdomen, and CNS. Okay, go.
Summary, Ms. Sarita Devi, 24 years old female with lump in the right breast. On examination, a 3 cross 3 centimeter lump in upper outer quadrant of the right breast, which is firm in consistency and non-tender with smooth surface and well-defined margin. It moves freely within the breast tissue.
Okay, go on with the diagnosis.
Provisional diagnosis, a case of fibroadenoma in the right breast. Hello, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, provisional diagnosis of fibroadenoma right breast.
Yes, ma'am.
Then
investigations, specific investigations,
you
ultrasound.
have to put the routine investigation first and then go on with the specific investigation. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Routine investigations, complete blood count, ESR, blood urea and creatinine, urine analysis, blood grouping and typing, X-ray chest, ECG.
Okay, so X-ray chest, ECG, urine analysis, blood analysis, all these have been done. Where is this RFT,
Uh,
urea, creatine, sugar levels also you have to assess. Okay,
okay.
having done this, next you go on with the specific investigations. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. For this patient, first I would like to do ultrasound the breast, ma'am. Then FNAC or core biopsy, mammogram if needed. We can
Okay,
do.
when in doubt, you're going to do for this age. Okay,
Yes.
so otherwise, there is not much of a need. If there is no doubt, then you can leave it with your ultrasonogram and FNAC. So you have imaging analysis, you have a pathological analysis, as well as clinically you have done. Okay, next slide.
Treatment, as the size is not very large, I would like to follow up regularly with USG at 6 months interval, ma'am. For
What
this
is the
patient,
size you are given?
it is 3 centimeter, ma'am.
It is 3 centimeter. If it is less than 3 centimeter, you can go on with conservative management. And if it is 3 centimeter and above, if the patient has any other problem, you can go on with the surgical management. Surgical management.
Excision biopsy, as the lump is in the outer quadrant, we can do circumarular incision.
Circumarular incision and you can remove the lump. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is called as excision biopsy. So go on with your previous slide. Okay, what is FNAC?
It's fine needle aspiration cytology, ma'am.
What information do they give?
We will see the type of cells, ma'am. If it is any atypical cells or not. We will see. In case of fibroadenoma, we can see epithelial cell and stromal spindle cells can be seen.
Then in core biopsy, what else can be given? So you want to say whether it is a normal cell or a typical cell or a pure malignancy. So malignant cells. So about the core biopsy.
We can find two patterns, ma'am. Pericanalicular or intracanalicular pattern. We can differentiate. Pericanalicular, the ducts will be appear normal, ma'am, with proliferation of stroma. In case of intracanalicular, the ducts will be collapsed due to the stromal proliferation. Hello, ma'am.
So we have pericanalicular and the intracanalicular type of pathology. So how do they do with this core biopsy?
They use a 14 to 18 gauge needle. First, anesthesia, local anesthesia is given. Then, using 14 to 18 gauge needle, the lump.
So you have to assess the site of the lump and make it fixed. Then you give a local anesthesia at the appropriate site. Then what do you do? Make a small nick over there. Okay. So that the needle can pierce through. Then
Using
what does it get out? How much of tissue does it come out? A few millimeters thickness. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Hello. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. So which is to be subjected for analysis? So what is the difference in the pathology you said about the cells and the type of cells. Here again, whether the what else can be done with your core biopsy? Anything else?
We can rule out any malignancy, pre-malignant lesions. We can rule out. Hello? Ma'am, I can't hear you, ma'am.
Now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you have a core biopsy done, they will give you the whether it is benign or a malignant tissue. If it is going to be a malignant tissue, then they will do a receptor study also by this core of tissue. Can be done with this small investigation. Then I'm coming on to the ultrasonogram of the breast. How does it appear? How does a benign lesion?
Ma'am, once again, I can't hear you, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
How does a benign lesion appear in ultrasonogram of the breast?
Ma'am, it is smooth surface where well-defined regular margins will be seen, ma'am.
Yes, well-defined regular margin. Then echogenicity.
In case of solid tumors, it will be echoic, ma'am. Cystic, it will be hypoechoic.
Okay. What is the type of calcification or anything which
dense calcification, or you can tell in mammogram, popcorn calcifications are seen in fibroadenoma.
Okay. Whereas in malignancy?
Microcalcifications less than 0.5.
Okay. So that is the difference one. So by ultrasonogram, you can make the number of lumps which are present, not only the clinically palpable lump, is there any other smaller lumps anywhere else in the breast, this breast or the contralateral breast. Okay. Then the site of exact site of the lesion, then whether it
Ma'am, again, I can't hear you, ma'am.
or something else, or is it? Hello, you are able to hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it anything to do with the malignancy? So ultrasonogram, you know what is BIRADS?
BIRADS, it's a scoring system, ma'am, from 0 to 6, ma'am. Score 2 is benign lesion, ma'am.
Score 0 is what?
No, score 0 is normal.
1 is?
Suspected benign lesion, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Next, what else? Any other investigation you want to do? If it is going to be a doubtful case or conforming to a malignancy, what else?
Malignancy.
So you said from the history, what are all the metastatic sites, isn't it?
Yes,
so
ma'am.
assess metastasis if at all it is present.
Bone scan can be done.
Yeah. So if it is going to be a malignancy, you have to do a LFT, then about assess the chest, assess the skull, all those things have to be done. So having a clinical pathological diagnosis of a benign lesion, we restrict ourselves to your FNAC or core biopsy and the ultrasonogram of the breast. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So mammogram gives you again the BIRADS breast imaging diagnosis. If at all it is necessary, we'll do. Otherwise, we will restrict ourselves with this. Okay. So now you have a next slide.
Yes.
So if it is very smaller in size, then it can be left alone with a conservative management. Otherwise, you have to go in for a circummedullary incision and a excision biopsy. What is the type of anesthesia do they give?
General anesthesia, ma'am.
Okay, general anesthesia or short EA. Okay, so they are depending upon the site of lesion, you have to put the incision and get a excision biopsy of the whole lump,
Yes.
whole lump, and subject it for the full biopsy as you did a core needle biopsy. Okay, then they will make multiple slides and look for what all the pathological aspects, whether type of fibroadenoma or whatever disease they have given, and then they will give you that there is nothing else suggestive of any malignancy. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll go on with a short PPT.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. இதுல load பண்ணிருக்கேன்ல.
Oh, ma'am, it is saying that you can't open it. That it is coming.
Okay, wait now.
Ma'am, again it is coming. Is that only one?
This something else. Not comments. You can give that to that particular the chat. நம்ம ஷேர் பண்றது அவங்களுக்கு தெரியுதா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் உள்ளதா கரெக்ட் தானே
Ma'am, is it visible? Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, can you see the slides, ma'am?
We have the screen, so you are able to see the slides.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
They are sharing, no? We will share them. That will be better for you.
Ma'am, yeah, ma'am. Your slides are visible.
Yeah, visible. Okay. So you are able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I will continue. So how do they classify the breast diseases like? How do they classify mostly? Whether it is a benign breast disease or a malignancy. That's how they go more out in any breast disease. So when do you call that the lesion is benign? So the benign breast disease, you have to know something about benign breast, which is more common and how common is it. Okay, so benign breast disease is the most common cause of all breast pathologies. Up to 30% of women will suffer from benign breast disorder requiring treatment at some time in their lives. So how do they present? That is mainly as a lump or a lumpiness or a pain. So aim of the treatment is to exclude, that is, while examining the patient, you have to exclude a malignancy and take it out as a benign breast disease. So I am not going into the normal anatomy physiology part of it. It may have been covered, or you have to read from your text about the normal. You have to know about the anatomy and the physiology of the breast tissue. So it is modified sweat gland, isn't it? So you have to know that there are something called the breast tissue, which contains the acini, smaller ductules, bigger ductules, then the sinus, which open as multiple openings at the nipple region. So there is some amount of subcutaneous fat also on top of it, and the skin. So deeper to that, you have something called the retromammary space, and behind that you have the pectoralis fascia and the pectoralis muscle. Then you have the chest wall. So coming on to the parts of it, that is, you have the ducts, lobules, ducts, then the lactiferous sinus, then the openings. So then in the next slide, you have to know about what are all the pathologies which constitute the breast disease, and how are you going to diagnose, and how do you differentiate from a malignancy. So we have so many clinical examination and all those investigations done in many of the cases, and finally they arrived at the triple assessment. What do you mean by triple assessment? That is the clinical, radiological and pathological assessment of the particular breast pathology you will come to a conclusion of the diagnosis to an extent of 99.6 sensitivity with a specificity of 93%. So the clinical examination, radiological examination, whether it is going to be an ultrasonogram or a mammogram, then about the pathology, the FNAC or a core needle biopsy. So all these three you combine and arrive at a diagnosis which constitutes to nearly 100% perfectness. Okay, so next you have to get from the history whether the patient has a pain, lump, nipple discharge, diffuse swelling. Is it a localized swelling or any other diffuse swelling? Then about the risk factors, all these you have to get from the history. Then about clinical examination, you should remember not only the particular lump you are going to examine, you are examining the particular breast, the contralateral breast, both the axilla as well as the person as such, the generalized other systems. So coming on to the breast examination, you have to do the inspection in all the positions which we have talked about, the sitting position, arms above the head, arms by the side of the hip, and as well as the leaning forward position. So by this, you can come to a conclusion whether this particular lump, if at all it is present, whether it is going to be a malignant lesion or a benign lesion. If at all it is a benign lesion, what are all the constituencies in the benign lesion? What all the things which constitute the benign lesion? So now evaluate the same thing apart from inspection, palpation, and the node evaluation, lymph node evaluation. Don't forget the ipsilateral axilla, contralateral axilla, the supraclavicular region, both sides. Then the general examination, don't forget to examine the abdomen for the organomegaly, any mass, any fluid in the fluid in the peritoneal cavity. So I'm not going to deal with those. They would have done in the malignancy. So we are concerned with the benign breast disease alone. So this physical examination generalized approach, I have to understand that the patient should not be embarrassed by your examination, and you should be very gentle, get the consent from the patient. If you are a male, definitely you have some female along with you to examine the patient, and after getting the consent, a proper exposure of the area, you try examining. Then on inspection, all these things, the size, symmetry, or the contour of the breast, the nipples, the size and shape of the swelling, then of the nipple, then if there is any retraction, any discharge, and what type of discharge, whether it is pus or is it blood mixed or a serous discharge, all these have to be noted. Same way, on palpation, lying down position with a small pillow on the patient's shoulder on the side to be examined, and ask the to rest her arm over the head. Okay, that is for the palpation. So with the flat of the fingers, you can get the consistency, whether it is a smooth surface or irregular in nature, is it well defined, all these have to be made out. So with this, you will come to a conclusion of the site of the lump, then size of the lump, margin, surface, consistency, if it is fluctuant or transluminant, in case if it is going to be a cyst, and if it is tender or not. So skin, coming on to the skin, the tethering, if it is present, the fixity, whether it is fixed to the skin, fixed to the deeper structures, and if it is fixed to the pectoralis major or the latissimus dorsi, if at all it is going to the lateral extent. With arm extended against resistance, the elbow flexed at 90 degrees to contract the latissimus dorsi. How you contract the latissimus dorsi. Then for serratus anterior, outstretched hand against resistance over the wall. And so for examining the attachment to the deeper structures, you should note that it is not the pectoralis major alone, it is the serratus anterior also, and a part of the external oblique in the lower inner aspect of the breast. Okay, so the latissimus dorsi for the attachment of the lymph nodes. Then coming on to the palpation of the nipple, you look for any thickening, tenderness, hardness, mobility, retraction, discharge, color and content of the nipple. So always look for the discharge, whether if there is any protrusion from the nipple area like a papilloma or anything. So you have to note. So coming on with the type of discharge from the nipple, you have to note the quantity of discharge, the color of the discharge, is it mixed with blood, and is it always present or is it coming on and off. So all these will give you an idea of the background pathology. So to explain a little bit about the lymph nodes, you have to know about the levels of lymph nodes. Level 1, level 2 and level 3. That is, you have the pectoralis minor as the landmark which separates the levels, whether it is below the lateral margin of the pectoralis minor or above the upper margin of the pectoralis minor. So this will give you whether the nodes are present and what type of node, what group of nodes are enlarged. So the most of the central, anterior, posterior as well as the lateral group will come under the, are you able to hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Which group of nodes are involved? So, if you have an apical group of node, it is under the level 3, that is above the pectoralis minor. So, the palpation, you have the lower groups, the anterior, posterior, and the lateral group, then the central group and the second slot, then the apical group. So from the apical group, the lymphatics go towards the supraclavicular group of lymph nodes and enter into the right as well or the left side into the venous system. Okay, so the palpation, you have to look for how do you palpate the anterior group of nodes, posterior group of nodes. All these are important. Hope they would have told in the malignancy classes how you examine the anterior. So just to recoup what all you have known, you have to see how they examine the anterior group or the pectoral group of nodes, the subscapular or posterior, and the lateral group of nodes. Everything is there in your DAS. Then the systemic examination, you have to look for the respiratory system. So what can happen in the respiratory system? Why do we want to examine the respiratory system? The nodes, the mediastinal group of nodes, or if at all any other group of nodes which has pressed the respiratory tract bronchi, then there will be some amount of collapse or distal, sometimes the consolidation, and as well as the pleural effusion, or it could be the other way, a deposit in the respiratory system which could be a malignant secondaries, and that could cause the other problems. In that case, the type of pleural effusion could be something different from the other previous one. So in benign lesions, we don't get all these things. So coming on to the abdomen, again the liver, if it is enlarged or not, is there any fluid collection in the peritoneal cavity, that has to be assessed, and in addition any other mass. Coming on to the mass, in case of malignancy, the pelvic deposits or the deposits over the ovary, the Krukenberg's tumor, all these things have to be examined. In case of benign, all these will be negative. So this is about the self-examination which you have to teach the patient. If possible, the patient can come at an earlier stage. So by doing the triple assessment of clinical evaluation, radiological evaluation, and the pathological part of it by means of FNAC or a core cut biopsy. So what are you going to achieve by this? One, you have to say whether this particular lump is benign or malignant. That is what you want to know. So so you don't go in for unnecessary excision biopsies for a malignancy. So evaluate, the positive result is only suggestive of carcinoma. So what does this mean? By means of mammography, you can, if at all by ultrasonogram it's not possible to come at a diagnosis, you can go in with the mammography. Mammography, as you know, the breast tissue is compressed between two layers, two slots, and you get a craniocaudal and the medial lateral picture that will give the particular lump, whether it is going to be a benign lesion or a malignant one. And they grade it as per BIRATS and say whether it is going to be suggestive of a malignancy, or is it suspicious of malignancy, or is it being a benign lesion. So screening, so can you do anything without being a lump in the patient? Yes, it can be done. But the age restriction is there. The age of 40 is the criteria for doing a screening mammography. So otherwise, can you do at 35? Yes, if there is a family history or if there is any lump in the particular patient which has to be assessed further, then you can go in for a mammography. Otherwise, without a lump, without anything, you can go in for a screening mammography after the age of 40. So this picture gives about the mammogram with some calcification. So the lateral view, coned or magnified views can be made out. In case of malignancy, as you know, that is speculated margins with microcalcifications with the architectural distortion may be present in malignancy, whereas in a benign lesion, it will be smooth and regular margin with the popcorn type of calcification. So the microcalcifications suggest the malignancy. Macrocalcification in general suggests a non-cancerous or a benign lesion. So this picture gives the about the microcalcification on the right side upper part, that is suggestive of malignancy. Over the left side, a little bit bigger calcification, which denotes a benign. So this is about the BRACs. And number 6 is fully proven malignancy. So imaging characterize the mammographic abnormality, and assessment of the tumor size exactly can be done, and features of malignant lesion if it is present or absent. That will give you what it is, what type of pathology you are going to deal with. Again, this is a benign and the malignant, how it is. Shape of it, then the lobulation, if it is present or not, and microlobulation. So in general, the pure and intensely hyperechoic goes in favor of a benign, and hypoechoicity may be a cyst or a malignancy. So MRI, there is a role of MRI in some situations other than mammography, that MRI is done to know whether the particular lump is involving a deeper structure, if it is if you will be able to remove the hole or not. Two other modes of management in a malignancy will be advised in certain situations. So that is the role of MRI, but in very few indications. So this is a picture which denotes the lump being present at a posterior aspect, that is the deeper part of the breast, which is whether it is involving the fascia or the muscle or not. That's what we want to know by this. And if there is any erosion into the deeper structures, can be made. So coming on, is there any nuclear medicine which can help? So nucleoisotopes hold promise, such as the FDG, cystathionine, and the C11-thymidine. Imaging with resolution is problematic. Most detect routinely at less than 10 millimeters. So, so that the management is easier. So coming on to the pathology part of it, fine needle aspiration cytology. So it is only a cytological diagnosis, not a full tissue diagnosis. The basement membrane is not there. Only these cells are the type of cells, atypia or dysplasia if it is present, you can make out. So whether the pathology is going to be a cyst or palpable lesions can be made out by this, and it is easy to repeat And if you have any doubt, again you can repeat the same technique. So how do they give, what is it they are going to give in the pathology report, and how good is it? So the false positivity is 1 to 2%, and the false negativity is 5 to 14%. So the remaining things about the tissue, what type of epithelium, what is the stroma, all these cannot be given. Only the cells exactly, whether it is going to be a malignant or a benign lesion. So coming to core cut biopsy, it's or otherwise called as true cut biopsy. They use a 14 gauge needle on a spring loaded biopsy gun, core samples under local anesthesia, 4 to 6 cores. Usually we take 2 or 3, that will be enough. If you have a doubt and the tissue is larger enough, then you can go in for full stretched, that 4 to 6 cores. Then something about stereotactic biopsy. You can take a biopsy with stereotactic techniques if it is at a deeper plane, which is not accessible easily by your clinical core cut biopsy. Then you can go in for the stereotactic biopsy, image guided biopsy. Then by this you can exactly go into the particular area where you have smaller lesion less than 1 centimeter in size, and whether if it is suggestive of malignancy, that will be given by your. So this is about the advanced stereotactic techniques, 11 core biopsy needle, then under ultrasound guidance can be done. Then advanced breast biopsy instrument can be used, and it can exactly take the particular tissue which is supposed to be malignant or changed, other than supposed to be something different from the benign lesion. Okay, so coming on to the biopsy, open biopsy. It is considered the gold standard here, and the cytological, histological diagnosis not obtained by your FNAC or other methods, then you can go in for your open biopsy. Result of core needle biopsy is not consistent with the radiological appearance, suggestive of not definitely suggestive of a benign or a malignant lesion, then you can go in for this sort of investigation. So advantages, of course, you know that it can be repeated, it is less invasive. All these things are there for FNAC and core biopsy over open biopsy. And this is about the screening techniques. So breast examination, screening mammography, so self-examination by the patient herself, or it could be examination by the doctor or by your investigative methods of mammography or ultrasonography. So how good it is, that's what is given. So, so coming to your theoretical part or of benign breast diseases. So what are all the constituents of the benign breast disease? So you have to think of certain things which you come across, which is abnormal from in the breast. So what all could be, you leave alone the malignancy, you leave alone the extra to a benign breast disorder. So what are all the things which come across in the benign breast disorder? So you know certain things called as congenital disorders or congenital malformations in the breast tissue, in the breast. So the patient may not have a breast tissue at all, or the nipple areola complex may not be there, or it may be an additional breast which may be present in the milk line, which extends from the clavicle to the inguinal region. So by the 6th week of fetal life, all these will settle down and it will come to the pectoral region by the 8th week, and then it will start producing the breast tissue with the areola and the nipple. So if there is any abnormality, whether there is any absence of breast, absence of nipple, all these come under the benign breast disorder as such. 1. 2. Second is the infection, trauma, all those things will be taken into account as benign disorders. Third will be the benign neoplasms or the inflammation. Inflammation in the sense, inflammation and infections. You know, the infective disorders may be a non-specific infection or a specific infection like a tuberculosis, syphilis, and all what you call as SLE and all those things come under the infective disorders or the inflammatory lesions. Then you have the ANDI, something called as benign neoplasms. The majority of it is fibroadenoma, the phyllodes tumor, or a ductal papilloma. So the other things could be the cyst. Cyst in the sense could be a small single cyst or multiple cysts, bilateral or unilateral. You have the fibrocyst, adenocyst, or a simple cyst which has formed in addition to a galactosele. Okay, so these galactosele and abscess, all these are coming under the pregnancy-related benign breast disorder. So when we generally say a benign breast disease, we take into account the benign neoplasm as well as the benign breast disease like fibroadenosis. So this is something about the congenital abnormalities. Something about the Mondus disease. What is it? If there is thrombophlebitis of the superficial veins of the breast and anterior chest wall of the chest wall, you have thickenings, longitudinal cords like feeling over the under the skin. So that is called as the Mondus disease. There will be absence of injury or any infection, but this will be present. So this is called as Mondus. So treatment, restricted arm movements, then spontaneous regression within a few months. So lymphatic permeation from the occult carcinoma of the breast is the differential diagnosis. So the next another condition which you often come across is the ductal ectasia. So the ducts, the bigger ducts become even more larger, dilated. Then there will be collection of secretion within the lumen. Then they make an obstruction over there usually, and the proximal, that is the smaller ducts, will again be dilated, and the same process repeats again and again. So in case of ductal ectasia or a periductal mastitis, that is the tissue around the duct will be inflamed. So they will be pulling out, and there will be ductal ectasia. It's a common cause of infection. And this is about the ANDI, that is the aberration of normal development and involution. So fibrocystic disease, fibroadenosis, chronic mastitis, and mastopathy, and all these are constituting the ANDI. So it could be either a cyst or a adenosis or a fibrosis or a combination of all these things. So the disturbances in the breast physiology extending from the perturbation of normality to well-defined disease process. So there is often little correlation between the histological appearance of the breast tissue and the symptoms. So again, what we said in a case of fibrocystic disease. So fibrosis, cyst formation, hyperplasia, adenosis, papillomatosis, all these. So the clinical features, if there is a lump, or is there a cyst, is there anything else, or is it localized or diffused throughout the breast, that all you have to note by your clinical examination. And during this examination, you have to ask the patient whether is there any association with the menstrual cycle. So if there is any association with the menstrual cycle, the entirely you have to think of a hormonal influence. So for a benign breast disease, the patient will be anxious, the parents will be anxious, we don't have nothing much to be done. Or in a case of young individual with fibrocystic disease, it will settle on its own, take its own time. But you have to reassure the patient that it is after doing the investigations and clinical examination that it is only a benign lesion. And mastalgia will be present, that is purely suggestive of cyclical mastalgia, suggestive of a benign lesion. So coming on to the treatment part of it, a solitary cyst or small collection of cysts can be here it's not visible, I think, can be aspirate. If it is single cyst, then you take out the aspirate, look for it, then look for the color, spread over the slide and do a cytological study. All these can be done if it is a small solitary cyst. Then after the aspiration, if it resolves, leave alone. If the fluid is not blood stained, you leave alone. So if it recurs and requires reaspiration, you can reaspirate also. But again, the cytological information has to be got. And if there is a residual lump or if the fluid is blood stained, then the cyst repeats itself, reforms itself again and again. Then you go in for a core biopsy or the excision biopsy, depending upon the case. So this is about the fibroadenoma. The age group you have to note, it is the younger age group, usually before 35, usually, but in this case it's given as 15 to 25 years. So in the early stage of life, this sort of benign lesion can occur. So they arise from hyperplasia of a single lobule and usually grow up to 2 to 3 centimeter in size. So they have a well-marked capsule, and when you call, when it is more than 5 centimeter in diameter, you call it as a giant fibroadenoma. So is it a single area, a single lobule, if it is present, or is it present in multiple sides over the same breast or in both breasts? You have to note that. So when you have to interfere with the fibroadenoma, so if it doesn't give any pain, so you have to wait and watch. If it is less than 3 centimeter in size, and if it is more than that, you can subject the patient for any excision and do a biopsy. So coming on to the fibroadenosis, it is after the premenopausal women, it can occur. So the next age slot, that is above the 30 years, 30 or 25 to 35 years, 40 years, you can get this sort of image with the cyst formation, adenosis, fibrosis, hyperplasia of the duct epithelium may be present with epitheliosis. So again, you can give the same sort of reassurance. Evening primrose oil is supposed to be of a little use, not always fully curing. Some people it may respond, and danazol and tamoxifen can be used in appropriate doses. And something about the phylloids. Phylloids, it is coming under the benign tumor. And there is one variety of cystosarcoma phylloids which is malignant, and the presentation is somewhat a little bit different. So the phylloids tumor is xerocystic disease of Brody or cystosarcoma phylloids. You take it as benign lesion unless it has a clinical or a pathologically suggestive of malignancy. So it usually occurs over the age of 40, and we have come across a few cases of younger age group having this phylloid, but usually it is this above the age of 40. The clinical features: large, sometimes massive tumor with an unevenly bossulated surface. Ulceration of overlying skin occurs at times because of the increased vascularity and pressure necrosis. It is usually mobile. And low malignant potential, resembling a fibroadenoma with a higher mitotic index, and they can metastasize via the bloodstream. So benign type, it is wide local excision. So massive tumors you do as in a case of malignancy, requires mastectomy. So this is about the summing up. The age group, the lower age group 15 to 25 or sometimes 30, that is the fibroadenoma. Above 40 or around 40, that is this phylloids tumor. And sclerosing adenosis can occur at a later age also, that is around 40. And cyst formation is again at a age group of 20 to 40. So first is fibroadenoma age group. Next you have the cyst or the fibrocystic disease. Then you have the sclerosing adenosis and the phylloids tumor. So everything is given about what is to be done for each case in the end. That is whether fibroadenoma to be excised or reassured, conservative management or excision biopsy. Phylloids tumor, if it is a benign tumor, you do a excision, or if it is malignant type, then you go in for a mastectomy. Then you have the cyst, reassurance, aspirate if there is any blood cells or any malignant cells, depending upon the case. If it is if there is blood or any cells which are suggestive of malignancy, you have to get a biopsy or excision. So the sclerosing adenosis is again a surgical excision. So by this PPT, you would have known a little bit about what are all the diseases which come under the group of benign breast disorder. With the congenital, then about the benign disease of the breast or any cystic disease of the breast. All these are coming under this in addition to the infections and inflammations. Benign breast disease, benign breast tumors in the sense, or neoplasms, you have something of different. That is, you have the fibroadenoma, the phylloids. Okay, so another thing which you have to know about is the ductal papilloma. That is yet another condition which is present in the duct, and that causes blood mixed discharge through the nipple. And another one will be the Paget's disease, which has not been included in this slide. So leave alone the other things. So you know a little bit about the triple assessment. how you identify whether it is a benign lesion or a malignant lesion, and the early treatment in the case of malignancy, and reassurance and simple excision or a wide excision depending upon the type of tumor in the breast. Okay, to some extent we have gone through, and you should know about the anatomy of the breast and the lymphatic drainage of the breast. That is important, and hope you have got a little bit of information from us by the benign breast disease. Read it once, then you will be able to understand a little bit better. Take some time to read the benign breast disease. It is common. It is almost 3 times common than the malignancy. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.